Welcome to the Actor's Take. Coming to you from the Captain's Lounge Studios, located here in beautiful Longmont. I have got a series of guests with me tonight that have been nothing but trouble. But that's okay, I know the show is going to go perfectly. I would like to introduce to you four of the most wonderful actors that we have here in Colorado. I know Jade is now looking around trying to wonder where they are, but she's actually one of them. First, let me introduce my guests. Brad.
Brad Handley.
Jade.
Jade.
Vicky.
Vicky Bliss.
And the incomparable Bob Buckley. So we're here to talk about acting, we're here to talk about community theatre, where most of us have done our acting. But the first question I'd like to ask all of you, and you can just go in turn on this one, when did you first learn or get those feelings that you actually wanted to act on a stage in front of an audience? Any first takers on that?
Children's theater camp at Potpourri Players Longmont Theater Company a million years ago under the tutelage of Leada Huey, and it was just a summer camp thing, and I just realized I had a knack for it, and I fit in a lot better there than I did anywhere else in the world.
What do you mean by knack? Like, what do you mean you had a knack for it? What does that mean?
Well, you know, especially when you get little children on stage, they get shy, they turn their backs on the audience, and I was like, what? I don't know, this is like my lighting, and I would walk up to the front because I knew that I was short, and that was the best way to see me. So, I like being seen.
And from that moment on, you really felt like you wanted to concentrate on your acting and...
I think so. I mean, there was always, you know, a lot of dreams, but acting was a passion. I didn't know if I was going to go into it professionally or not back then, but I knew that it was what made me the happiest, especially as a kid in Longmont. Back then, I didn't fit in very well. So it was a place for me to be accepted.
So this was your pure escapism?
Yes.
I think all of us probably
Absolutely.
do acting just for that one major part. Brad, how about yourself? What made you suddenly decide?
It was a way to meet girls. Let's face it.
Well, okay, next question. Right.
Do you still have their phone numbers?
Right.
But I mean, like Jade was saying, theater is like the island of misfit toys for a lot of middle schoolers, high schoolers who are not physically like sports oriented, but you can still get that kind of adrenaline feeling that you get when you score a touchdown or when you're out there on stage, when you're in command.
How old were you when you first went on stage?
15.
15, okay.
So I've been 50 years.
Okay.
50 years in theater.
Bob, what about yourself?
Well, I think, that's why I said that question about when you said knack, because it's a word that's in my mind. I find I have the same thing, but I don't really know what it is. I just know that I'm 60 years old, so people have been laughing at me for like 54 years, and you don't know why, sometimes, right? I mean, you're a funny person, and sometimes you just don't know why people, but they laugh at you, and you learn how to use it, or I don't know, subvert it or try to change it, but I think that's the first thing any of us realize, is that why are these people looking at me, and why are they waiting for me to react first before they react? Or maybe I am reacting faster than they are, I don't know,
How old were you when you first started?
Oh, well, like I say, teachers in middle school would let me read the absence list of who wasn't coming to school because they just wanted me to read it because it was more entertaining. They read it.
Did you make up raisins?
Of course, yeah. I talked about people. Sometimes I just said their names, and and people react. And when you're that young, I don't think you know why. But I think you enjoy it. I think you enjoy having people look at you and listen to you and realize when you're in control, when you're in command, when you can take another breath or not. But I don't think you're using it at all. I think you're just kind of doing it. There's a lot of people that just do it naturally.
Purely naturally.
Yeah, I just purely naturally did that a lot. So.
Yes. Vicky?
Well, I didn't really start acting right away I started performing because I was always in musicals. I danced the first part of my life right through high school, and then when I started musicals, it was someone asked me to actually audition for a musical because I knew I could dance. And then singing and dancing and performing just exhilarated me. I fell in love with the stage at that point. And I did musicals for many, many years. And it was not until I moved to Colorado in 1988 that I started to do things other than musicals. And that's when I realized you had to learn lines and have to really not just perform, but act. And I've learned through a lot of my colleagues just how to do that, and a lot of good directors. And I've just loved it ever since. I perform and act and do it as often as I can. But of course, as everyone's talked about their age, we're not going to go there with me. But I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I will continue to do so as long as I can.
It's funny because with myself, I'm very similar to Bob on why I got into this, because from a very early age I was told that I was always acting up. And I think most people that know me well will agree that I'm really good at doing that.
And you still do.
So we'll keep a straight face on that one.
No, we won't.
What's the time? How long can you go without acting up? Let's see if we can gauge that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
Chess clock anymore?
Got a stopwatch.
I'm guessing maybe 30 seconds.
All right.
And you know, from the youngest I can remember, people were telling me, you know what, you're going to end up on stage.
Or in prison.
Or in prison. It would have been one or the other. And unfortunately, I came from a family that believed that boys became engineers. So rather than following what my passion would have been, which would have been to go to one of the London acting schools, I ended up in engineering. So I never really got into it, but I used to do a lot of community theatre back in the UK. I then got married, had kids. Oh, and the funny thing is, Alex, Alex, my eldest daughter, she's exactly the same as myself. That's how she got into acting. From the youngest age I can remember, Alex acting, and Vanessa, and of course Anne Beck. But Alex was the one that really pushed it.
I was a bus driver for like
you were.
6 years. So.
You were.
Some girl.
Yes. So yeah, it's funny how we've all drifted in and found acting as a wonderful means of self-exploration, which of course it really is.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit here. What was probably the best show you have ever been in? The one that stands out in your mind as going, yes, I am so glad I did this.
In Maui, we did a show called Once on This Island, and it wasn't a particular like technical, or I mean, if anyone knows the show, it's just a beautiful little piece, but it was the most family-like atmosphere. It was the most fun I've ever had on stage. It was a beautiful story and amazing people, and we got to tour it to the outer islands. So we went to Hana, and we went to Oahu, and we went to Kauai, and so it was just a nice outreach too, to get to know a lot of people. We got to stay in people's homes, and I think that when I think about, I've auditioned for the show before, since then, and I've never gotten cast again, and I think the reason is because that needs to be my last memory of doing that show, because it was so magical, and it was 22 years ago, but it was amazing. And I don't think any stage experience could ever touch it. It was beautiful. So.
Bob, what about yourself? I mean, you've done so many of those, so... Is there one? Do you want to think about it?
No, I played Julius Caesar once in Julius Caesar.
It's a good show for Julius Caesar to be in, actually.
Well, the thing is the play is not, about him. It's about, what everyone does in reaction to him. So you don't really feel you have to carry the whole thing. You just have to make a strong impression while you're on, because they're going to murder you right away. And so you just get 3 or 4, great scenes, And then I had a fabulous death scene, and sometimes I got to lay outside on stage in the rain while the play continued. And
Oh,
it was-
wow.
Yeah, it was so, I mean, you can't beat that.
What about you, Vicky?
Well, musically speaking, I would say Sweet Charity was probably most challenging physically, as well as everything else, because I was in every scene but one, and so you just had to be there at all points. But we just had a ball doing that. And the most challenging straight play I've ever done was 84 Charing Cross Road, which was amazing. I played a real character, so I studied her and learned about her. And what was so amazing about that play was that there was no dialogue. It was just monologues.
Yes.
It was a 20-year correspondence between a woman in New York to a bookseller in England. And they only corresponded through letters. They never met each other, formed this wonderful relationship. And I think what really bonded me to that role was I had formed a relationship to someone I hadn't known through email, through nowadays email. And I didn't meet that person for 5 months after we began corresponding. And it was very similar. So it really helped me engage in that role and the person that this person was. So it was hard memorizing all those monologues.
I can imagine.
But it
I
was
can imagine.
it was thrilling to do.
What about you, Brad?
Let's see, musically, I'd have to say Fagin in
Oh, yes.
Oliver. And I also played the wicked stepmother in Cinderella, which was...
So did I.
And one of the most memorable ones is we did 1776. We did it with Bob Woolsey. He directed it, and we toured. And anyway, we went to Civic Center Park in Denver, and there were a lot of homeless people there. And I remember one time the guy that played John Adams was singing, and he, "Is anybody there?" And some guy goes, "I'm here. Does anybody care? I care."
Did you break character?
No,
Oh, never. Okay.
he was just on stage.
Oh,
It was just-
I love
Were
it.
you Alexander Hamilton?
No, I played Lewis Morris, who was the representative from New York and had to abstain courteously from every vote because the New York legislature couldn't agree on anything.
Wow.
Was that historically accurate?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
I don't believe in
interesting.
abstinence.
No. So, Brad, while we're with you, what's the worst show you've ever been in?
Stan could have let you in.
Probably the Residence Club. I'm sorry, not.
What happened?
Huh?
What happened?
Nothing. It was just, I didn't think it was very.
It was just a badly written show or badly directed show?
Yeah, I thought it
or-
was. There was the director was creative, had a creative writing class, and she thought it was an interesting show, but
It really wasn't.
nah, it was. I thought it stinker. But
Jade, what about yourself?
I'd probably say there was a production of Kiss Me Kate 1,000 years ago I did, and it's a wonderful show, and I'm not even like a diva, although I am, but it's one of those shows written in the day where it was the stars and then everyone else is just set dressing, which is fine, but, after about 20 minutes on stage going, then I started telling dirty jokes and got in really big trouble with my director because he heard one. It was funny. So, but it was just, I like shows that, I don't always have to be the star of a show, but I do like the cast to be utilized and to be have interesting parts. So I felt it was lazy on the director's part to say just stand there and be townsfolk. It's like there had to, a reason, a reaction, something, anything. But we were just set dressing, which was fine. because the leads of the show were amazing, and I will never say anything bad about the production itself. I'm just talking about my experience.
But for
in
your
it.
experience,
Yeah, the
yes.
experience, the production itself was beautiful, and my best friend played Kate, so obviously I can't say anything bad about it. But the production, I mean, just being in it was just excruciating.
Remember, you can say anything you wish because
Yeah.
it's only the 5 of us.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's not an issue.
Yeah. There must have been something. I mean, you
Yeah.
couldn't have just supported her and everything. There must have been one choice you made that you rolled your eyes and said, "Oh, please, not again."
yeah.
Not one
She-
single thing.
Terrifies me, and Tom's met her, so no.
Good for you.
Yeah. Vicky, what about yourself? Is there a show that stands out that you say, what the hell am I doing here?
Well, actually,
Was it Annie at the Dickens?
no, it wasn't. It wasn't. No, that was fun. We had a good time.
Death
It
Traps
was
and all.
actually my first CCTC show, Scotland Road. And yes, that's where you know me. And the role I had was not the best role, and I never could get her character. There wasn't a lot of dialogue. She was just there. She was the caretaker, she was the nurse, the doctor, whoever. And she didn't have many lines, and she didn't really have much to do. And I couldn't grasp it, and I felt I did a horrible job, and many of the adjudicators felt the same way.
The director never thought of subtexting?
Don't think so.
That's strange. That's strange.
So I didn't feel good about it.
So you
Let's put
felt
it that
bad on
way.
stage, basically. You're just not happy on stage.
I felt worse after the adjudicators before we went to
Really?
CT.
Yes.
You know, constructive criticism is one thing, but
You see,
Yeah.
that's not even the point to say, did the director not, try to drag you through a process by where you could find it yourself. It's that he didn't make sure that even
That Vicky was
whatever
ready.
whatever
Yes.
you were doing, which I'm sure was, you're as much as you have, he didn't see a way to make her believe in that before she went on, that's more a part of their role
Yes.
than the other. I mean, they can't unpack or unwind every single thing in every show, but they can sure as hell help you do it, you know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Well, sometimes
I
it's some-
understand that happens a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes it helps to do that, sometimes it doesn't. I think it all depends on who you've got in the group,
Yeah.
basically. Bob, what about yourself?
Well, it was pretty much the same thing. I was in A Doll's House, and I played Dr. Rank, who was charming and at the opera and a tie and tails, and he's delightful to Nora and everything like this. And the director was actually having a relationship with this woman, which who knew, because I don't think she knew it. He thought he was having a relationship with her. I don't think he was. And he directed everyone to stay like 5 feet away from her. And it was like outrageous. And finally he just said, "Bob, when you come in, just say the words. Don't move your hands, don't turn your head, don't take your hat off, don't take your cape off." I mean, and that's completely against what is written in the script.
Yeah.
And there are times when people say things like that to you. So a review came out and said, "Bob Buckley is the most wooden, useless caricature has no fire or passion," and that was it. And that's when I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to do it myself from now on.
So the
I'm
most
not gonna
honest
listen
review
to
you've
much.
ever had then?
Yeah, pretty much. I'll tell you that.
wow.
Yeah.
Never again.
Never
though, That's
again.
for sure.
Yeah.
Never again.
We talked about Alex a little bit. Alex has written and directed in Hollywood, and we're talking about critics now.
Your dog
And,
friend.
and I've been to see her shows in Hollywood, and I have read the critics' review, and we've even had that here in Longmont, and you wonder, was the critic actually at the show?
Well, I mean,
I don't read reviews. I never get reviewed anyway, but. So.
You just stay well clear of them?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's, and Jade Tiller played this part, so, maybe I didn't make an impact, or, it just wasn't, I don't know. I mean, I get, reviewed in shows. I mean, I like getting a nice review, but I try to not, put any credence into a bad review.
if I Google you later on and find a bunch of great reviews for you, that's going to really make me laugh. I want you to know that because I'm gonna. I have to now.
You're going to find one. Believe me, I've Googled myself. They're not out there.
That's something we have no control over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, auditions and reviews.
That's very, very true.
And you don't know whose vision they're seeing or what you're doing on that particular day. And, I mean, as long as you're fulfilling the role that, you know, was given to you and directed through you
Right.
through, and,
Right.
you know, and who knows how it comes out. I mean, there's always
Exactly.
times where, you know, a director sets a play in, you know, the Mideast, and you're like, wow, that's really confusing to everyone but you. And you go through the whole thing, and it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I did a play outside one time, and the set designer and the director brought, you know, just truckloads of stuff and put it outside. And I was like, you're defeating the whole purpose of being outside. Now we're inside
Right,
again,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we're outside.
Oh,
It
my
just-
goodness,
it-
yeah.
Well, I mean, things happen like that. Things
Yes.
don't make sense. And, you know, I remember doing a show and calling a friend of mine and saying, look, you know, it's like we're 4 weeks in, and we haven't even looked at the script yet. We're doing all these exercises and stuff. He's like, hey, you signed up for it, you got to go through with it, you know, and you do, but there are times, what can you do?
That is true. So Brad, let's go
Yes.
back to you again. What's the hardest role you have ever tried to do? Or
hardest.
you found it to be the hardest?
I would say probably Festus the Fool, 12th Night. Because basically it was my first kind of attempt at Shakespeare. I was not really familiar with the language, and
The language is hard, understanding the
yeah,
language
the language is hard.
Understanding the language is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we all
But-
gonna sing Happy Birthday to Willie?
Yeah, we should.
We should,
Oh,
shouldn't
it's
we?
today's the day.
Sometime,
Is it
yeah.
today?
Doesn't
It-
Feste wreak some terrible revenge on someone too? Isn't that a problem with that play? I mean, with Malvolio, I mean, didn't I just read
Yeah,
something
he
about
humiliates him.
that? Yeah,
yeah.
and people are not so down with that anymore, you know. So I just read.
He
something
still
about that
offends
yesterday.
today.
Yes,
Still
there you go.
like,
There
yes.
you go. There you go.
It's funny how they think that today is Shakespeare's birthday when they still don't even know who he was. But that's okay. Vicky, what about yourself? Hardest role you've
Do
ever
you know who
tried-
Shakespeare was, and when his real birthday
Not
is?
really. And that would probably be if I had the courage to ever try out for a Shakespeare play. I've never, ever had the courage because I just don't think I could do it. I really don't. But, you know, our dear colleague passed away a couple of weeks ago, Marion Bennett, who has been a stalwart in the community, and listening to people talk about her and has so inspired me to step out of my comfort zone. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this today, is because of Marion. And maybe I should try Shakespeare. Maybe I should give it a try. But and we've already talked about the hardest role I did was 84 Charing Cross Road, just reading monologue, just reciting monologues after monologue after monologue. But doing Shakespeare, I don't know.
I loathe Shakespeare, I'll be really honest.
Really?
Because when I was a kid at school, they made us learn Shakespeare by rote.
Oh, well, of course.
Pages and pages and pages of the bleeping stuff.
Well, UK, right?
And I got so turned off from Shakespeare, and I thought to myself, there's got to be someone that knows how to write this without boring everyone to death. And I found Chaucer. So I'm actually a Chaucerian.
Wow, I'm impressed.
So
Very
I much prefer Chaucer over Shakespeare
Wow.
in writing. And that's, of course, even earlier, by about 150 years.
Right.
So, but if you've never read the Canterbury Tales, I highly recommend it.
They use a lot more consonants, though.
Well, they do.
So you have to be very
They
careful
do.
when you read it. Yeah.
They do. Who haven't we covered on hardest? I think.
Yeah. No, we went
Oh,
through.
we
it.
did.
I
Yeah,
think we do. So,
Are you out of questions?
No,
Is that
I'm
what
not.
the problem is? Do you need time to make a
no,
call? or-
absolute,
okay.
absolute dream role. What is the role that you would just
Lots.
love to grab and make your own?
Whether or not we're qualified to do so?
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
doesn't matter.
that's easy.
Yay, miscast.
Okay, I'll go.
Go.
Okay, Mame. Mame, the musical.
How are you not qualified for that?
I don't have the belting voice. You know, I'm a good character performer, but not the legit gorgeous voice. You know, but Mame is such a character. I love her so much. I've loved her. I performed in the chorus in Mame twice, and I would have loved to have played her. I'm still actually, I'm the right age to play her right now, but I don't think I have the chops to do it, but I would love her role. She is awesome. She's the one that said, life is a banquet, and most poor SOBs are starving to death.
What about you, Brad?
Oh, geez. Musical. Lately, I've been into Reefer Madness, the musical.
Oh my goodness.
If you have
Wow.
ever seen it,
Nice.
it is
Wow.
Oh,
the narrator in this is very. If you've ever seen the original
Yes.
movie or back in the 30s,
I
there's this
did.
strict kind of mean.
Yeah.
And so he's in the musical. He plays like 4 or 5 different roles, and it is takes it to the extreme. The movie.
He's
where-
like a public service announcer.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
guy,
Okay.
right?
And at the very end, they have bonfires and they're burning books and everything. And the last thing he says is, let's see, when the end is near, exploit their fear, for the ends justify the means.
Wow.
your face lights up. You
Yes.
must- really? I mean,
I'm still trying to put
Really?
together Reefer Madness, the musical. I'm having trouble with that, but
It was done on Showtime. Yeah, there's one scene where he is very desperate to get the reefer, and so he goes and he robs the poor box at this church, and all of a sudden the lights come up, and Jesus is there, and they go into a welcome. Listen to Jesus, Jimmy. Don't smoke that reefer, evil weed, and they go into this like Las Vegas type of showgirls.
well, that sounds hysterical.
oh
You
dear.
see how he inadvertently told you, like, one of the greatest reasons of all that anybody acts in any way at all?
Yeah, 'cause you're
because
excited.
you're
You lit up.
passionate about an idea, and your
Right.
idea is,
Yeah.
is like censorship and
Yeah.
how to use language to make people believe things that aren't true. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
you dream of this role that talks about that idea. And
Yeah,
I
saying
think that's
something.
probably the same for any of us, is that
Yes.
any of these plays we talk about, or Shakespeare, it's a story that's like almost more real than the lives that we actually lead. And you find you can say something about something that matters, like censorship matters, you know? And so that's the reason why people act, I think. So.
Yeah.
I'm part now of a comedy group, parody group called the Mostleys. I've been writing comedy and
Oh,
for them for like 17 years. And so we do a show every year at the Lincoln Center. But it is, now you can, this is a way to express what your opinion is, how you feel about society, how you feel about politics or whatever. You write a song about it.
oh, I love
I like that.
it. I love it.
I like that.
So this year it's called We've Got Issues.
we do.
Many issues.
Oh, yes.
I thought everything was rolling along rather nicely, actually.
But it's the last 2 weekends in July. So.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Plug,
Shameless
plug.
plug, shameless plug.
Plug, time to
shameless
drink.
yeah.
Cheers.
Jade, what about yourself?
What was the question?
A role that you have always, or would just love to grab hold of and just milk it to death.
Damn. I can't remember the character's name, but it's the mom in The Light in the Piazza. Because, well, first of all, her music is stunning, and she goes through such a range of emotions. And sometimes I feel like especially as I'm getting up to what would be considered middle age, the middle-aged female character is very underrepresented in musical theater, American musical theater, especially right now, where it's all about coming of age or other things, rock and roll shows. There's some amazing stuff out there, but like every once in a while, just this jewel comes up. And 10 years ago, it was Light in the Piazza, and it just has amazing music and an amazing story. And I'm at the age where I can play the mother. It's a very racial show because it's about the experience of this white family in Italy, and the young girl falls in love with an Italian boy. So I'd probably be more suited to play the Italian mother, which is an amazing role too. But yeah, I think she's an amazing role, and I feel like it's something that would help me grow I think, as an actress, because it's really hard, and her journey is such an arch that I feel like it would be amazing just to like go from that Midwestern naivety to what the real world is really like. And I like seeing where people's journeys in a show, even if it's like a secondary character. Or and then I also like to touch on racial issues, because growing up in Longmont has been a racial issue for me my entire life. And so I like to see shows that like look at racial issues and relationships, and not as much in Light in the Piazza, but other shows. So there's a million other shows out there I would love to play, but I think like with the 3 minutes I've had to think about it, like that's the one that sticks out to me.
Nice. Bob, what about yourself?
Maybe Richard III, something like that. Or, you know, I mean, Shakespeare has tons of,
Just
you know. Yeah. I mean, Lear.
characters
Scottish
that you can just
play.
get, yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Oh yeah, I would love to play Lady M.
yeah.
That would be fantastic. I keep forgetting about that. I'm always like thinking in musical terms, but as a
Yeah,
play.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like,
Well, our time is coming to a close. There is one thing that I'd like to talk about before we actually close this first episode of Actors Take. Should community theatre, and here I emphasise community, should community theatre be prepared to do really risky shows? Okay, now the LTC that we all know and love, of course, they have done Veronica's Room, which was
Yes.
the first nudity that
Right.
they were scared of doing. Okay, they have not done it since. We did do One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where I played Mr. Ruckley, which would actually go into the part I loved to act and hated to act the most, because obviously I spent 2 hours crucified up against the wall.
Exactly.
And I only had one line repeated.
Please
5
get me
times.
off this wall, something like that.
It was something like intercourse them all, but
Yeah,
I
yes.
can't remember exactly what it really was.
no, but I read the book. Yes.
Do you think community theatre
I have the poster.
should actually go and do really risky shows, or do you feel that community theatre should always play safe?
Well, I think in the 21st century now, I think we kind of have to. I think we have to move forward, and I think just being with Longmont since 1988, Longmont Theatre Company, we didn't do much risque, many risque type of roles of shows until Veronica's Room. But recently they did Urinetown the Musical, and just the name Urinetown, you know, we have
Great
some
musical.
we have some older patrons in Longmont, and they probably have never heard of it. It was fantastic, probably one of the best musicals I've seen on that stage. We also did Sweeney Todd, which was very bloody, as most people know. And now they're in production with Cabaret, which is the revised version, and it's the very sexy and intriguing, and plays up the homosexual part of it. So we have progressed.
Alex in Hollywood, she's with the Stella Adler Acting Academy, and they did, as one of their fundraisers, they did Cabaret, and Alex played the main role in the show.
Wow.
So Jackie and myself, we drove out to California to see this. It was the raunchiest
Yes.
version
Yes.
of Cabaret you will ever see.
Might be here in Longmont too.
No, trust me.
Oh, all right.
Alex directed this thing, and she just went for it. And she did a ton of research on 1930s
Okay.
Berlin. What was it really like? Forget the stupid movie. That didn't
Oh, right.
show it.
No.
That didn't show it. So she researched it and researched it and researched it, and she reproduced it on stage. It was unbelievable. And she investigated all of the homosexual aspects of it and all
But
the rest of it.
this wasn't community theater, though.
This was not community theatre.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
It actually,
Yes.
it actually was very similar to community theatre because it was fundraising for the school, which is a non-profit.
Oh,
What kind of a school, may I ask?
Yeah,
Yes, really,
That's,
for the
Stella,
college?
Stella Adler.
Ah,
The Stella Adler Acting Academy on
Oh.
Hollywood
Yeah, but for
Boulevard.
actors.
yeah. Exactly.
Oh.
Alex looks after actually all of the foreign students that go to Stella Adler, and that's what she's been doing for the school for a long time.
That's
but
wonderful.
they allow her to play, and they allow her to produce and direct her own shows on their stages and all the rest of it. And she does a lot of this, and she does a lot of acting.
When you took her to dinner after the show, what was that conversation like? Interesting?
For me,
Have you lost your love of theater? Or
we were with the entire cast. I would have expected nothing less of Alex. I really
Okay.
wouldn't. I thought she nailed it brilliantly. However, I'm not sure Jackie felt quite the same.
Okay.
So, feelings on community theatre, very risque shows.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's part of
Yeah.
it's part of the window of society, and it's how we see it. But it's like, and you can even push boundaries with older shows like Cabaret that's been around, and Chicago, and things like that, because you can actually push the envelope. But you do want to keep true to your roots, and every once in a while throw in the Oklahoma and the Music
I
Man.
agree.
Because
I really agree.
That's what made people fall in love in the first place. But especially now, the audience is coming up, and maybe especially here in Longmont, since Colorado itself is growing so much and bringing in so many people from New York and Chicago and LA who are coming here for a better quality of life. We need to up the ante in theater as well. Amazing theater. There is a ridiculous amount of theater in down in Denver, of these small, tiny theaters that seat 25 people, and
Yes.
they put on the most amazing
Amazing
productions.
productions.
And they're just not being seen. And a lot of them are doing a lot more risque stuff to see if they could bring in this younger crowd that is coming in from New York, who goes see the off Broadway
Broadway,
weird
yes.
cabaret fringe shows, because they're going to want to see that here too. And we're getting that. And as an older actress, it's dismaying because there's not a lot of parts for me and stuff like that anymore. So, I wish Colorado had been this progressive when I was in my 20s and starting acting out.
If the community is open to this type of thing, I mean, definitely you should
You're
go-
completely
go for it.
skirting the question, though. You're not. You're saying if
Well, I'm trying to make a bid for political office.
correct me. Really? Are you running for office?
No.
Oh my God!
See?
Mayor's rap.
Well, I
We're
mean, it could happen.
doomed.
We've had an actor as president. We
Yeah,
can have an
exactly.
actor as
That's
mayor.
right.
Why not?
That's
What's
right.
the difference? Yeah.
There's a comedian in the Senate. I mean,
Exactly.
Oh,
there's
there's
many.
one.
There's a lot of comedians.
Let's not go
that are
there.
in
I know. This show started out so nice.
The thing is
But,
that we really have to. You really don't want people walking out
Yeah.
in the middle of a show either. So there's a fine line. We want to move forward and be progressive.
But I feel like audiences are a lot more sophisticated because of the internet. They're able to research a show before they walk in. You walk into a show called The Doll's House, and you think it's going to be cute because you see the name.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, whoa, it's not. It's creepy and weird. But now people know that more.
But do you think the average theater person, Theater Joe, just coming in off the street to see a play, actually researches it?
I think so because.
Really?
Well, I think because money's tight, and so we are particular about where we spend our money. So.
I mean, what else do they do when they're looking at those phones? I mean, honest
That's
to goodness.
true. I
you
mean, they're
know.
probably
Yeah.
looking up Yelps and reviews and everything right up to the box office, and they make that decision.
I
at
mean,
the
your
box
question
office.
is such a larger is a
big-
larger
it's
question
a
vast-
anyway.
really-
It's a vast
uh,
question.
how do you keep people in the theater? How do you get them to come to theater? Is theater
Exactly.
something
Well,
And
that
what do you
people are doing
consider
anymore?
Progressive and pushing the envelope too, because 15 years ago, doing just even the first revival of Cabaret was big.
Right.
So, what is progressive? What do you consider pushing the envelope?
What I consider pushing the envelope is stopping a scene and having people text what they think should happen next, and then you do the next thing that people are texting or whatever. I mean, when does
Improv?
what's going to happen when that starts? And
Hasn't
you know,
it al-
someone.
I think it already has. hasn't
It has things like that are taking
my
place now.
gosh.
People are trying to design shows where you can keep your phone. There was a story on NPR like 2 weeks ago about they're trying to design shows where people can have multiple screens open at once. I gotta tell you, I'm not looking forward to being someone's third screen. That's all I'm saying. You know?
Well, I
You're
mean,
either
and
the
that's-
first screen or you're not.
But that's
you know.
like the progression of theater itself. I mean, if that's where it's going, that's where it's going.
exactly,
Whether we,
exactly.
you know, whether they take us old timers along with them or not.
Well,
Well, doesn't Boulder have a festival like that where they have people playwrights submit plays and they do it within 32 hours?
oh, I've done one of those.
Oh yeah, those are
Yeah.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are
So it's
festivals.
Those are pure theater, actually. Those
Pure
are good.
theater, so it's not improv.
Right? No,
No.
no.
But I mean, like, it's
sometimes
like-
you have to, but.
I mean, you're talking like texting while you're on
fringe.
stage.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So I mean, it's basically the same thing though as breaking the fourth wall and saying, "Okay, audience, who do you think did it?" You know, like when Clue came out and the audience chose who the killer was. That was considered so forward-thinking to
Yes.
include the audience. So I think now we're at a point where yes, we're including the audience, but it's going to be a little less fourth wallish and you know the
Right.
ether instead that brings the opinions
Yes.
of the audience. But I think we've always been doing that. It's just it's in a different format now because it has to be.
Well, if you're trying to teach someone something, do you always want to listen to what their opinion of your teaching it is? I don't think so, personally. I mean, you have when you're trying to teach someone something, they have to experience it a little bit first, and you don't want them to say, "Oh, well, I can't experience that because." You know, you want to teach someone about a word that you don't want used in society. You know, you have to allow them to feel the pain of it first before you can say, "Don't." You know what I'm saying?
Right,
It's,
but why is that like assuming? I mean, how does that apply to our audiences? We're not.
Because it's meta, because it's self-referential. It's like at the time you're doing it, people are talking about it, and it changes the experience of it. I mean, I don't have an answer to it. I have to say that.
But
I
I
don't know
think
what
as
to
an
do.
actor, that would be fascinating too because you have so many different options, and it's not just improv. It's actual. I mean, even things like this. You know, someone could come in and say, "This is a new question, and it's not on our list," and we're all going to go, "What just happened?" But we have to answer it. And I think, as an actor, that's fascinating because you're representing society. As an actor, you're playing a
challenged.
character, and you're challenging.
You're challenged.
So when society comes in and challenges you and says, "Hey, what would happen if this happened?" Vicky, go. You know, and you're playing a grieving mother, and this happened, and you just found out that your son was this, and he was worse than Hitler. Are you still a grieving mother? You know, text. This is your new character. Go.
I know we're slowly running out of time
Okay.
here. Does anyone have anything they'd really like to say at this moment? Or I hope you all enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for-
Thank
this was
you.
really
Thank you.
fun.
Good.
This was really fun.
I'm,
Thank you.
I'm glad, and thank you all so much for coming to the very first Actors Take from here from the Captain's Lounge. It's been absolutely wonderful having you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Nigel.
I hope you have enjoyed show number 1 of the Actors Take. This is Nigel Age,
did
your
it.
host, signing off. Thank you.